Okay, how is it going? So, welcome to another podcast episode of the Leo Alves podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on whatever time it is you're listening to this at. On today's episode, I have a guest with me called Daniel Yores. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did?
Okay, and he's been someone I've been wanting to get on the podcast for a while now. I think it's been about 3 months, but things have always been happening. I was traveling around Texas for a while, and then there were things on his side as well. So it's awesome to finally get the next hour or so with him here and just be able to get a podcast in together. Otherwise, I'm not going to say too much. I'll let him introduce himself. But otherwise, over to you, Daniel, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Leo. It's a pleasure. And like you mentioned, we've been trying to get this going for a couple months. A little bit of travel and like a couple messes on my ends. I had to cancel on you a couple times last minute, which I hate doing, just due to like some construction and noise and trying to make this as good as possible for the listeners. So thanks for understanding that, but thanks for having me and happy to chat. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. So, I guess for anyone who's maybe never listening and hasn't heard of you until now, I guess some background would be good. So you're based in Toronto, right?
Yeah, just a little bit outside of Toronto, Vaughan, for anyone who's like, in and around here. People get upset about Toronto who like you're not from Toronto, but you say you're from Toronto. Like, so I'm just outside of Toronto. I used to live downtown. Now I moved back out to the suburbs. But yeah, I'm a personal trainer online and in person. I have a podcast as well, the Daniel Yores podcast. Leo and I obviously are both two creative geniuses, naming our podcasts our names,
Yeah.
which I think there's actually extreme value in that. But that's something we'll talk about maybe another time. Yeah, I my background was in a very brief sense. I played soccer my whole life at a decently high level. I had a ton of injuries that kept me in and out of physio clinics, basically, my entire youth and career, if you will. And all of that led me to getting so interested in the human body, how it works, why it breaks, how to make it not break. And then that led me into a career of training with always keeping that frame of mind at the first hand. So I'm always trying to think about how can we move better, how can we get less injured, and how can we use all this to lose body fat, maintain freedom of movement, physical freedom, as I like to call it, and just improve our lives in general.
Interesting. So yeah, I think that's an awesome way to get into it. And how long have you been like just involved within the fitness industry for? Just how many years? Just out of curiosity.
It's been like 8 years or so now, but I think 5 years like full time. There was, through university, I was, some friends and family and whatever here and there, but not that serious. And then again, another long story. After I graduated my undergrad in kinesiology, I went to chiropractic college. And then the long story is that I dropped out of that, realizing that that wasn't something that I wanted to be part of or pursue for the next however many years it was of the school. And then I started to get into embracing the role of a personal trainer and being on the front lines of that ahead of the injuries after that. So it's been about 4 or 5 years now.
Okay, yeah, I would say actually that's about the exact same length of time as me for both of them. Maybe 8 years of maybe just being like generally interested, and then 5 years of really just diving deep into everything. So that's a coincidence there. But otherwise, wait, before I actually get started onto what I wanted to speak about today, I actually wanted to clarify something. And I don't know if I feel like I heard you mention this somewhere, but another part of me feels like I don't know if I've made this up. Did you say you had Italian heritage?
Yes. So despite my appearance, my
Yeah.
heritage is actually half Italian. My mom's side of the family is Italian, and my dad's side of the family is Greek. So how I came to look like this, not exactly sure. For anyone who's like not watching on video, fair skinned, red hair, beard, blue eyes, all that stuff. So yeah, but the way that I think at it is actually the Greek part of my family is from like the very, very north part of Greece, kind of like where, every time there's been a war over the past, however many years, the border changes type of things. And so it's a little bit more of a mishmash of people, and people there are not your stereotypical Greeks, dark olive skin, dark hair, dark eyes. They are a little bit more fair skinned and light haired like I am. So that's probably where it came from.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the border thing definitely is the case for a lot of European countries over the last hundreds of years. So yeah, that's bound to happen quite a bit. Can you speak any Greek or Italian?
I can understand and like respond back in English. So like my grandparents or whatever, who they speak English, but they speak their Greek and Italian as well. So yeah, I understand it, and I can follow a conversation, but to speak back fluently is not. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day.
That's interesting. That's still impressive, especially with I've been learning Japanese for the past, I don't know how long now, and just learning a whole new alphabet in itself, which obviously the Greek alphabet is different. I always find that's just the, I don't know. It's always, I feel like it adds another layer of being impressive to it, and so yeah, it's not the easiest thing.
Yeah, my Italian is definitely better than my Greek, and also because the area that I live in here in Vaughan is like very predominantly of Italian descent. So in elementary school, we actually had Italian as part of our school. And here in Canada, we also take French up until grade 9. And so
Mm.
French and Italian are similar. Obviously, the alphabet is the same as English, and they're both Latin-based languages and whatnot. So there's a lot more. I've had a lot more Italian language influence growing up, but the Greek is a little bit trickier. There's just not as much of it around, and like you said, the alphabet is different, so that definitely definitely throws a wrench into things.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that answers the question that I had in mind. But otherwise, for today's episode, so I actually suggested this not too long before starting to Daniel, if it, obviously, and the idea was, so Daniel's birthday was, I don't know when I'm going to publish this, but today is the 16th of September as we're recording this. Your birthday was yesterday. That's correct. And
That's
my
correct.
birthday is going to be on the 19th, so in 3 days from now. And he made a podcast episode, which I in fact listened to this morning, about 28 fitness related things you've learned within 28 years. And I was actually going to do a similar podcast, which I've been working on my list over the last few days, and it was 27, because I'm going to be 27 general things I've learned over 27 years. And I haven't recorded that yet. I don't know which one I'm going to publish first. I'll probably publish the 27 things in 27 years first, considering it's my birthday on Monday. And I'll probably publish that on my birthday. But I thought, you know what, just for this episode, maybe we'll just take turns, maybe putting out a point from each of our lists, and then we'll just maybe speak about that in a little bit more depth, and just keep going with that for as long as we feel like it. But otherwise, do you want to go first?
Sure, I
Considering it was
can go
your
first.
birthday today.
I love the idea, and I love always the way that you're going to do your list. Like I kept mine very fitness related, which is actually less like me because I always try and mix in like fitness and life stuff and try and find these lessons and these interconnectedness between all these things. So I'm really interested to hear your things and feed off of that as well when your episode comes out, when you get it done. But yeah, we can start here. So I went through my list and kind of picked up a few random ones that I thought might be worth talking about. And the first one here that I had is make every rep look the same and focus on moving well first. And this for me comes from a place of people who try and lift very heavy or get up to a point of like, some more true strength training where you're lifting in and near your max or 1 rep max or 3 rep max. We tend to take the warm up reps as if don't count, as if they're just for getting your heart rate up. And in that case, you might as well just walk on the treadmill. But you should aim to make every single rep look the same, whether it's a bodyweight squat, an empty barbell, or 300 pounds or 400 pounds, whatever you're squatting. Every rep should look the same. That way, when you get up to that heavy weight, that top set, your body's prepared, you know what's coming, and the things are going to work the way that they should. You're not trying to figure out the squat underneath your max amount of weight.
Yeah, that makes 100% a lot of sense. Of course, it's something I always try and emphasize with a lot of the people I work with. And even so, all the examples you gave, and even to add to that, your first rep and your 10th rep should also look the same. And this is something I actually notice a lot. I feel like maybe someone who's only started resistance training, at first, and this could be including the listener right now, usually they'll maybe, they'll do 10 reps because their program just says do 10 reps, and it doesn't, and they might not really be pushing themselves by the time they've gotten to that 10th rep. But I think with time, once they've started to understand, okay, the 8th, 9th, 10th rep is actually supposed to feel hard, then I feel like sometimes they go through this phase of they kind of just push through it and make it because they know it's meant to be hard, but they'll also almost push through it whilst neglecting form 2. And I feel like that's a phase that a lot of people go through. So Yeah, I feel like it's just a phase that a lot of people have to grow out of, and then actually understand. Okay, even though the eighth, ninth, 10th rep is supposed to feel hard, form is still supposed to be good. Like you said, identical to the first rep.
Yeah, just for safety purposes alone and for training what you're actually trying to train. Like one thing you'll come and see is with any type of row, where when you start to fatigue because we're so like hunched over and like tighten our upper traps, then we start like shrugging every single back movement. And like, well, when you start doing that, you're not doing anything into your lats, into like your mid back and all that stuff. And so yeah, you're hitting that number that's on the piece of paper that your coach gave you, but like your body doesn't know what that is. Your body doesn't know what 10 reps means or 11 reps or 7 reps. It doesn't have any idea what that is. So if the reps are bad, then you're just doing yourself a disservice. You're probably going to hurt yourself as well. Or not, I hate to say that actually, because I think it's actually quite difficult to hurt yourself. You've got to be doing something kind of dumb to hurt yourself in the gym, quite honestly. But the other side of this is that once you do get to some level of proficiency, there is a difference between like, let's say partial reps on purpose and bad form. And so when you're doing a row, again, we'll stick with that example. Maybe you get up to a point where like you're not able to pull it all the way back, but your form is still good. You're just only getting halfway at the end. You're really trying to squeeze out those last reps. That's still okay, depending on what your programming and what your goal is. But that is very different than doing the rep poorly, where you're shrugging and curving your back and twisting your body or whatever the case is. So there's endless nuance to these things, right? And I think
Yeah.
sometimes people get stuck on trying to hit perfect form, like exactly perfect every single time. When you're pushing towards the edge, there's going to be some level of compensation that happens, and that's okay. But that's, not beginner level. You've got to know what you're doing and understand what's happening with your body and what the exercise is supposed to be doing to be able to do those reps kind of imperfectly, but still good as you're pushing towards failure.
I feel like you explained that very well. I don't feel like I could really add anything to that. So I think well put. But yeah, I guess that we'll go on to the next point. So um, don't ever use being a perfectionist as a justification to do nothing at all. Just start. It doesn't need to be perfect. The universe doesn't conspire against you, but it doesn't go out of its way to line up the pins either. Conditions are never perfect. Some days a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. And that's something I see. It happens a lot. I feel like it. You can put that for you. That example could go for both fitness and non-fitness related. If we're going to speak fitness related, I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to start on Monday, or I'm going to start next month, or I'm going to start after my birthday, or I'm going to start after Christmas." The list is endless, and I know the list. I know whoever's listening right now, the listener, they can relate on some sort of level. I'm sure we've all been guilty of it in the past at some point in our life, but the important thing is just start. As that saying goes, it's never going to be perfect. And I think the sooner you understand that, the sooner you'll start making progress.
Yeah, absolutely. We were speaking about some like podcast technical stuff right before we started recording, and the quality of the microphone and the camera and all this stuff. And now Leo and I both don't have the absolute perfect setup with like an amazing studio to fly guests in and like, thousands of dollars of equipment and all that stuff. But if we had waited for that to be a possibility to do that, we would never be having this conversation. None of you who are listening would ever be listening to either of us. And so if we waited for the perfect time to start, we would never start. And so, yeah, you try your best to do the best you can with what you've got, and you just roll and continue to progress as you go. Whatever you start off with, even in your fitness journey, whatever you start with doesn't have to be the thing that you do for forever in that way. You might start off with, okay, I can only commit to the gym 1 day a week, or I can only do a 30-minute walk a couple times a week. That's it. And that's great. Doesn't mean that's a life sentence. That's all you'll ever be able to do and all the progress you'll ever be able to make. But you start there and then you build on it slowly and slowly over time.
Yeah, exactly that. Can you think of any specific examples that maybe you went through that at any point in your life?
Yeah, my entire social media journey or career or whatever, if you will, where for a very long time, I was reluctant to start posting anything on social media like professionally. And my thought process was always like, well, there's some like really amazing, very highly intelligent, well touted, well experienced coaches out there. Like, why would anyone need to listen to me? And then on the other side of it, there's a bunch of clowns who are just posting complete nonsense. And people listen to it and it's like, well, why, I don't have the perfect camera. I don't have the perfect this or that. And it's not time to start yet because it's Wednesday and whatever nonsense I kind of told myself. And when I finally got over that, it was like, okay, as soon as the first post went up, like, hey, this is, I'm Daniel, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 whatever it was. Then it was like, oh, that's not that big a deal. And then it's just, okay, this is just a thing that I do now. And it was just getting started. It was just getting over that initial internal like blockage to actually start doing it. And then that just led into all of this now. So that's probably my like most tangible example of perfectionism leading to non-action.
Yeah, I felt like that about my YouTube as well. So the YouTube videos I'm making, I put it off for a very long time, and even if you, and then one day I just decided, I'm going to get started. And back at that YouTube video, the editing is terrible. There's so much that could be improved with it now. Like now I've been doing this for a while now, and I know what I know, which is another point. You learn as you go through the process, and you keep trying, and yeah, and you just put yourself through the process. But yeah, my first YouTube video not very good, but now I've published, I don't know how many YouTube videos, but it's I feel like it's noticeably getting better with each video published. And even now, my last YouTube video that I published was yesterday at the time of recording this. And even today, I learned something new that I'm about to apply on my next YouTube video I'm aiming to publish in about 2 weeks. Which is, I didn't even know this. Maybe you know this. This might seem obvious for some people, but I did not know you could edit YouTube videos on Canva. Did
Oh,
you?
interesting.
Did you know
I
Canva?
didn't know that at all. No.
Oh, okay. Canva is it's like a.
Oh, I know Canva. Sorry.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
didn't know you could edit YouTube videos on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can edit YouTube video. You can edit. Okay, you can edit videos on Canva. So maybe not YouTube videos, but then you can upload it onto YouTube, and that's just insane because what you have access to on Canva is so much better than what I have access to on Final Cut Pro at the moment. So I already know that my next YouTube video is already going to look even better than the last one, and that's only a 2 week difference. So I'm always learning, and I think the important thing is I wouldn't have reached this point now if I didn't just have started a few months ago. And that's not to say I'm any expert on it, but one thing I do know is that I am getting better with time.
Yeah. I think even the thing to highlight with that is when starting anything new, YouTube, fitness, whatever, you don't even know what you don't know until you start going through it. And understanding what it is that you don't know, you might think, okay, I need to know how to do a squat. I need to know how much water I should drink. I need to know how to use this machine. But there's so many other questions that you won't know until you encounter. It's like, oh, well, do I use the rope or do I use a straight handle? Do I hold the bar like this or do I hold the bar like that? What do I do with my hands when I'm doing this exercise? And these are things that would never cross your mind until you're in it. So you won't ever know, as much as you try to be perfect before you start, you still won't even be perfect because you don't know what you don't know until you actually get going with it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I feel like we've covered that point quite well. Do you want to go for the next one?
Sure. The third one, or the third one here that I have is, or second one on my list, whatever, is to have a program. And as simple as that sounds, I'm sure, Leo, many people, they just go in the gym and do whatever machines are open and available or do the exercises that they like. And they just do this forever and ever. And by no accident, these are the same people who make little to no progress over time in the gym. So having a program, whether it be like the best program ever written by a professional, Olympic level coach or something like that, or just a free program you found online somewhere, at least have some semblance of a structure and something that you're aiming towards and some order or method to the madness, if you will, because that is the thing that's going to, one, it's going to keep you accountable because you have something to actually do every time you show up to the gym. And there's a schedule and there's a reason why you're doing things the way that you're doing. Two, when you have a program, you're not missing things. You don't end up just doing chest 4 days in a row and then like your back hurts and you never grow your legs or anything like that. So you got to just have some type of structure because that's going to make a huge difference. And I've seen people that get on like the most basic of programs and they've been working out for a while, 3-4 years, and they get on the most basic of programs and they start seeing results instantly. And I don't even use that in a hyperbolic way. It's instant results just by having some structure. So it goes a really long way.
Yeah, you already covered that so well. And I feel like a lot of what you were saying there, you pretty much described my like first few months of getting into fitness. That's exactly what
All
it
of
was.
us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember the first few times I went to the gym, it was like with my closest friend at the time, and I didn't have a program. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just there, and I was copying what he was doing, what my close friend at the time was doing, and he didn't, like, now I know and I look back, he didn't know what he was doing either. He had only watched a few more YouTube videos than I had. And that was what we were going off, the 5 or 6 Mike Cheng video, six pack shortcuts video that he had seen. And yeah, that's what we were doing. And funnily enough, we never trained legs. Yeah, we were kind of just doing whatever it is for that day. But as you said, I've seen many people training at the gym for years, and I give them a basic program. And by that I mean, because maybe they've downloaded the one on my website, and just because, by the way, maybe you could, just because you say basic, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. Sometimes with the most basic of things, you can make a ton of progress. And I'll be like, you know what, download the program from my website, and all of a sudden I'm hearing about them making loads of progress. And this is maybe their 3rd year at the gym, by the way. So it just shows, yeah, having a program, 100%, it makes the world's difference. And as I was listening to your podcast this morning, and I heard you say that point, and I was like, oh, I did think, yeah, that's definitely something that just needs to be said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I look
A
at
very simple one, but a powerful one.
Yeah, for sure. Now, yeah, when I hear someone at the gym with no program, I'm just like, oh, come on, man, take this one. Like, have this one if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a, I don't know the right word to describe it, but there's so much of information available out there. I am actually confused sometimes when people don't have a program or understand like the very most basic things. It's like, oh, I've never thought about training my hamstrings before. Like that's something that I've heard before. And I'm like, but there's so much information freely available online, and we get everything through online. So I find it interesting that people would not even know something like that before getting into the gym, because my assumption on this is that you would have watched a couple of YouTube videos and like, talked to a friend or followed some people online to at least have seen these things. And the fact that people don't ever think to like, oh, I should have like a structure to what I'm doing. It's very interesting, curious to me.
Yeah, that's how, like, I feel like that as well now. But then yeah, I feel exactly as you said. But then I look back at myself from my first year in the gym, and I'm like, yeah, I can't talk. I definitely went through that. And I'm sure you've heard this one before. I used to say, oh, I don't train my legs because I play football. And now it's like,
Yeah,
if you play football, you probably need to train your legs more than anyone.
exactly.
But, yeah. So but yeah, nowadays I'm just like, yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, so if you don't have a program right now and you're listening to this, do you have a free program that you give out on your website by any chance?
I don't. I'll have it I'm working on it, but I'll get it at some point.
All
But you
right.
have one, right?
Yeah, I have one. I was gonna say I would put both of ours in the show notes if you didn't have one and you're listening to this, but I guess I'll just put mine for now. And yeah, and grab that program. You can start doing it whenever, I guess, from tomorrow. So next point, and actually this is an interesting one. So because I feel like I can speak about this one for a little bit. So many people, and I'm sure you can 100% relate on this, many people only half-heartedly approach their fitness goals because deep down they don't believe they can achieve it. Although half-heartedness doesn't get results, but what a lack of results does do is provide a solid excuse for once they do decide to give up again, and then maybe tell themselves that they're the exception. And it's a cycle that a lot of people end up trapping themselves in, whether they realize it or not. And I feel like the way I can expand on this, so I have I don't think I would call this an analogy, but a story. So with Tim Ferriss, who you mentioned before we started recording the podcast, he shared a story that I thought fit really well here, which was basically, and I might not say the story 100% accurately, but it'll be I'll do my best. Basically, the story was, so I think he was lecturing a university class, and he promised his students, I think there was about 17 of them, that he would buy a ticket to travel the entire world, so a plane ticket to travel the entire world, for any student who contacted someone who was deemed impossible to reach. So it could be like the CEO of Google, Jennifer Lopez. So anyone who most people would deem impossible to reach. If anyone in his class managed to contact that person, by the way, no time limit on how long they do this for, he would buy them a plane ticket to travel the entire world out of his own money. And basically the follow-up result was that I think within the next week, maybe there was a timeline. I think it was about a week. So the next week, all the students came in, or the next month, and they said, you know what, they didn't even try. None of them even tried because they had so many other things going on. And I think it was the fact that they heard impossible to reach, that's why they were just like, you know, I'm not even gonna do this. So what he done the next year was he said, it was a different class this time, about 17 students again, and he told them, same thing, same prize. If one of you guys contacts someone who's maybe like really has a high place in society, you could say CEO of Google, again, Jennifer Lopez. I'm only giving those examples because it's what I saw in the book. And he would buy that person a ticket for around the world. And basically, I think it was 6 or 7 of those students out of the 17 had accomplished it within 48 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's and just a change of words, right? We see that you're nailed it, that you see this all the time with fitness, that people don't think that they can lose the weight, don't think that they can get strong, that, you know, the big weights in the gym are for other people, not them. And if you can get past that barrier, that self-limiting belief, if you will, then you can you realize that you can be one of those people too. And in that example with the Tim Ferriss story, like all of these, you know, famous celebrities and high profile people, like they are just people. You know, your favorite Instagram influencer who's verified with 1 million followers, like they're just a person and they're just like you and I. And if you message them, you know, the reason that they might not answer you is not because they're so high and mighty. It's just because, you know, they're getting, you know, thousands of messages a day. They can't possibly do that, but they might respond, and you never know. Like in the podcast stuff, like I've messaged some people and I've gotten some people who I never thought that I would have on my podcast just because of, you know, their reach or their place in the industry, but they happened to see it and got them on. And so you never know until you try, but you might as well, like, if you're going to do something, then do it all the way. Like I don't like to kind of half-ass things, like whole ass everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that story, I've reread that story like twice. Obviously, it's not a very a long story, but it is a very powerful one. And even if I was to go back and apply the context within a fitness sense again, even people I see who, let's say, okay, say like someone wants to lose weight, I've always noticed that it's the person who genuinely believes that they can achieve it who always does. Most people, I see a lot of people struggle, and it's because of a lot of the time, and maybe this is a different subject almost, or I guess it comes under the same umbrella. A lot of the time that like the self-talk they'll do to themselves is really negative a lot of the time. And I feel like, you know, if you're constantly putting yourself down, constantly telling yourself you can't do this, or constantly telling yourself you can't do that, then of course you're going to be right.
Yeah, every single time. It's the same as when I coach some people in person, and it depends on the person and the scenario and all this stuff, but regularly I will hand someone heavier weights than what they did last week or what they think it is without telling them, because I know that that person's reaction in that moment, and this is part of, like, you know, the coach client relationship, is that if I tell them like, hey, these are heavier, like get ready, their immediate reaction is like, oh no, I can't do that, like 20 is too much for me or whatever it is. But if I just let them do it and don't say anything about it, and then they do it and like, hey, by the way, that was like, you know, what X amount heavier than last time. Like, oh, wow, I never thought I could do that. I was like, well, you just did. So that's where we are now. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's not an easy thing to overcome these self-limiting beliefs. But if you can realize that you have this in any aspect of life, if you can realize that you think that like, that's not for me, I don't think I can do that, then that's, you know, step number one. If you realize that you can do it, then you can say, like, okay, maybe I can do this. There are other people like me who have done this. There are people in worse scenarios than me who have done X. And then you realize that you can be one of those people too.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And there's actually, as we were talking, an example came to mind. So I have an online member right now. So we're still working together, lovely lady. I know she won't mind me shouting her out. Her name's Melissa. And basically she's making tremendous progress. And I can't remember if me and her had this talk, it was either at the end of last year or at the beginning of this year. And she's been making tremendous progress the whole time, you know, in different forms, of course. And I remember one day, she never told me about this until she brought it up. She was like, Leo, the whole time that we've been working together, you know, I've compiled a list of every single win that I've had so far on this journey with you. And what I loved about the list is it was the tiniest of things. I feel like it was things from like, I can now get up the stairs without being out of breath. So things like that. And I can't honestly, it's been months since I've seen the list, but I remember just genuinely loving the list so much that I uploaded it as a post on Instagram because it was that powerful. And then a lot of her progress made so much sense to me. It's because she is celebrating these wins, she's acknowledging them along the way. And I feel like with each additional point on the list, it further reinforces the belief that she can in fact do it.
Yeah, collecting those small wins and acknowledging them is huge. Like you've got to have the big picture in mind. If your goal is to lose 100 pounds of body fat, you're not going to lose 100 pounds next week, but maybe you can lose 2 pounds next week. And you collect that win. You know, that t-shirt that you love that, oh, it starts to fit a little bit better. I noticed this like line of definition on my body. I didn't get out of breath going up the stairs. I was able to play with my kids, like all of these little things. These are the things that add up, and they're just little small milestones along the way, but this like positive momentum that it gets going is extremely powerful.
Yeah. And you know, whenever because you know, obviously motivation, it goes up and down. Sometimes you're going to be a little bit more, sometimes you're going to be demotivated, sometimes you're going to be motivated. And she's told me that whenever she maybe goes through periods of slight demotivation, all she has to do is open that list again and remind herself of everything she's achieved. So even then, that inspired me to start one as well. But
I love that.
yeah, amazing, right? Anyway, over to you. Do you want to go for, what is this, the fifth point?
Yeah. Point number 5 will be this: working out and fitness in the gym, it's not supposed to tickle. It's not supposed to be painful, but it's not supposed to tickle. It's one of my favorite things to say all the time when people say, oh, it hurts. And sometimes, there is actual pain, and that's a real thing. But usually it's just like the muscle burning, or you're getting out of breath, or your heart's beating fast, or whatever it is. Going to the gym, it's not supposed to tickle. It's not supposed to be easy. We have to lean into that zone of discomfort and break that comfort zone barrier in order to see the growth and the change and the results that we want. So understanding that, hey, this is supposed to be difficult, but it's not dangerous. You are not going to die or get injured or hurt yourself in some way. You came here because it's difficult, and because it's difficult, you're going to get the results that you want. And so understanding that lets you to push through those hard parts, because it is difficult. No one said it isn't. And again, it's supposed to be. But knowing that it's going to be, accepting that and leaning into it, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. And it's exactly as you said. If I was to, okay, say like I was to look at it from the perspective of someone who's probably listening and they're just starting out at the gym and they don't even know what maybe that burn or that difficulty feels like, how would you describe it to them? Like, yeah, how would you basically describe it to them for them to be able to find that spot and know what it's meant to be, if anything?
Yeah. So with controlling someone's form, and obviously this is much easier done in person than in an online setting, because they can't see what's actually happening, right? So like something may actually be painful, and because they're doing the exercise wrong, and that's different. But in person, if I see that they're doing everything right, and the reps are not starting to slow down, and they hit 10 and like it still looks like perfect, and like not really an effort, they're not like making those squishy grunty faces and like really grabbing on hard or shaking or anything like that, but everything looks perfect. I'm like, okay, does your shoulder feel like it's going to like pop off or like dislocate? No. Then that like little burny kind of sensation that you feel, that's your muscles, and that's what we're here for. You've just never felt those things before. This is really, really common in like any hamstring exercises, because for whatever reason, like our hamstrings are primarily used in today's society of 2022 to sit on them and use them as like cushions. But in human anatomy, they should be used for running and jumping and sprinting and climbing, and these are the things that our hamstrings are used for. So when someone gets in a situation in the gym where their hamstrings are isolated, some type of leg curl or something like that, it's like, holy shit, what is happening behind my legs? It feels like the whole thing is going to snap. And it's like, no, that's okay. Your hip is not going to dislocate. It just feels right in the middle of that muscle belly, not at the joints. Then you're okay. That is your hamstring. Here, Susie, meet your hamstring. That's what it is. And so I think it's just understanding where it hurts, so you can use palpation, a little more of a technical side of like, okay, does it hurt in the muscle belly, right in the middle of where the muscle is? That's probably okay. That's that burn that you're feeling. Is it in the joint? Does it feel like it's in your bones? That's probably not okay. The other side of this is it's just a little bit of guess and check. You just have to know your body over time and understand, like, okay, I did that. It just burned. I stopped the exercise. I put the dumbbell down, shake my hand out for a second. All right. Yeah. That burning sensation went away. Then that's okay. If I stop the exercise and that pinching in my elbow is like staying, like, okay, then maybe that's an injury and maybe I pushed it too far there. But it's a little bit of just kind of going through it and understanding your own body, but also understanding that an actual injury is much harder to come by in the gym than it's been said to be. If you're doing rows with like a 10 or 15 or 20-pound dumbbell, the chances of you hurting yourself are pretty low. You would have to be doing something extremely dumb to be able to hurt yourself with that. I think I've never seen anyone hurt themselves by just, doing it. Even if you do it with shitty form, you're not going to hurt yourself. So chances are that pain you're feeling is just like the muscle burning and what you're supposed to be feeling. But if it's actual pain and actual like joint injury, then that will feel very different, and it will be like alarm bells going off in your head, like, please stop.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you described it pretty well. I think ultimately it is going to just be a lot of trial and error, and just actually being in the gym and actually doing sets. That's where you're going to pretty much discover it. I would say that's probably how I discovered it, because now, as you said, you could probably use things like the RPE scale. How many, ask yourself at the end of the set, how many reps did I feel like I had left in that? So there's tactics, there's techniques that you can maybe use, but how did I learn? It was just, yeah, as you said, going to the gym and actually just doing it, because I didn't have anyone to guide me for a long time, just out of stubbornness, which was probably a bit silly on my part. Otherwise, was there anything you wanted to add on that point before I go on to the next one? Because I felt like you covered it quite well.
No, I think that's pretty much it on that one.
Okay. All right. And so next one, point number 6, complaining and blaming others for not reaching your health and fitness related goals changes nothing. Work with what you have. The choice is yours. And this is something I see a lot. Obviously, doing what I do, I get a lot of people who will come to me, and sometimes I won't, it might be, I could be anywhere. I could be at a barbecue. I could be in a supermarket. I could be with friends. And the moment someone finds out I do online coaching or I'm a personal trainer, yeah, they will tell me about a lot of stuff, and maybe, health goals that they're trying to achieve, which I don't mind, by the way. I'm more than happy to speak about it. But sometimes I do notice there is a theme in some people where they'll say that they can't do X, Y, and Z because of their girlfriend, or they can't do X, Y, and Z because their husband doesn't let them, or they can't do X, Y, and Z because, yeah, you can see where I'm going with this. But ultimately, as I said, the choice is yours.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this. And the way that I like to think about this, and I thought about this recently, I wrote something about it, but there's kind of two ways to go about this. There are external factors that certainly make it more difficult for certain people. Maybe it is very real that your girlfriend, your partner, your job, your whatever makes it more difficult for you. But complaining about it doesn't do anything to help. And here's the real thing. You have two choices. You can either complain about it and say that it's external to me, it's someone else's fault, it's something else's fault. That means there's nothing you can do about it, and that means you're fucked. You'll never improve. You'll never get by because you can't do anything about it. Or you can say, yep, I have all of these challenges, but it's my fault. It's on me. And that means that you can do something about it if it's your fault, which is great because then you can improve. If you can't do anything about it, then you'll never improve. You'll never get where you're going. If you take that ownership on yourself, extreme ownership of your situation, despite the challenges, despite the downfalls, despite the setbacks that you'll have, then you can actually get something done and you can do something about it. So I think taking that ownership and taking responsibility despite all those things, that's the way to go. It's hard, but that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think you said it so well. And I saw that post, and as I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I got halfway through, I was like, I'm liking this shit. And then I liked it, and then read the rest. There was actually, and I'll be lying if I said that I watched the whole YouTube video, but I've seen him speak about this before. So James Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really like his work. I was at a talk of his the other day, and I remember there was a YouTube video that popped up on my homepage the other day. It was like titled something like "This is going to end a lot of relationships," and it was obviously it was like maybe a 5-minute video. I don't remember now, but in a nutshell, he was saying that if there is something in your relationship that is genuinely making it hard or impossible or not allowing you to achieve whatever goal you may have in mind, whether it's fitness related or not, then you've got to question whether or not you should be in that relationship. And that can be a a damn hard pill to swallow, but it is a necessary one. And there's been times where I probably have questioned that within some people, but again, that's a bit of a big subject that does require probably a lot of inner talk.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a great point from him, and I've heard that same kind of thing said in multiple ways. I believe Jordan Peterson said something to the effect of like, when you have little arguments with your partner, and he was talking about this in the context of a marriage. And he's saying when you have arguments or things that you dislike about what your partner does, the way that they put their toothbrush in, the way that they clean the dishes or don't clean the dishes, like these little things. If there are things that they do that make you upset, you need to address those, because those are only going to grow and grow and grow. And that's when we have this like explosion of an argument. And it's like, okay, it started because of your toothbrush, and I'm going to lose my mind about something else that's like so insignificant. But you have to kind of address these things. And if they're getting in the way of, your partner, your job, your whatever it is, if that stuff is getting in the way of your health and fitness, which is top three, I don't want to say number one priority, because maybe you have children, maybe you have someone else to care for, all these things, but yourself, you need to take care of yourself. It's got to be one of your top priorities in life. If there's something that is very strongly prohibiting you or keeping you away from doing that, then that thing has to change or go, or it has to be addressed in some way. You can't just let that sit.
Yeah, exactly. And to add to the point where you said it has to be your health has to be one of the points that you prioritize most. Is true, because again, like you said, even though it might not be number one, it does need to be up there, because if you think about it as well, how can you give your all to your kids, or how can you give your all to your other half if you're not even giving your all to yourself, and you feel like shit most of the time, and you don't look after yourself, and you're always feeling tired? You can't. And just as bluntly as that. And that's something I've also seen you mention as well in the past, as have I.
It's the airplane analogy, right? Like, put your own mask on before you help others.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you can't help yourself, if you're hurting and in pain, and how can you actually do anything else? You can't.
Okay. Do you want to go on point number 7?
Sure. Point number 7 that I have here is switching gears a little bit, maybe slightly less serious, but dirty bulking is not worth it. Dirty bulking, for those who don't know, is like when you are bulking up in an effort to build muscle, but you're eating anything and everything, and you have no care or worry for the amount of associated fat gain that's going to happen with this. And this comes from the bodybuilding world, where there are seasons in the off season, and you're trying to just put on as much mass as possible and then lean out for show season in the summer and fall. But for the rest of us, people will just mask the fact that they don't want to control what they eat, and they don't care about gaining body fat, and you gain a lot of body fat, and then it's difficult to lose afterwards. So I would say that it's not worth it. It's a phase I would recommend everybody skip. And if you want to gain muscle, which you should, lean bulking and controlling your calories and still doing cardio and still eating healthy and not trying to gain like 5 pounds per week or something crazy like that, and just wearing sweatpants and oversized hoodies, like that's not the way to go. It's just doing you a disservice. It's not really going to get you farther ahead, and you're probably doing more damage than you are doing good.
Yeah, 100. You've nailed it. I've done a dirty bulk many years ago. And I remember I know you said on your podcast, I think you said on your podcast you had as well at one point in your life.
Yeah, last year, like from like July till the end of the year, I did that basically. And now I did it because I wanted to gain a bunch of muscle back that I lost through COVID, and that's a whole other thing. But the other reason that I did it was I purposely gained way more fat than necessary, and then from January until March or April, then I documented the process of losing that fat on my social media. But if I wasn't like a social media guy posting stuff, I never would have done it that way, because it was useless. Like there's no real benefit to me doing that, other than showing people that, like, okay, this is how you would lose weight. So I did that once, or not once. I've done it a couple times by accident and whatever, but like, I'll never do it again. There's no need for me to ever do it again. I did it once. If I ever need to show that, I can just go pull up those pictures and those posts and those the data from that time. And now that it's documented, and that's it. Never again.
Yeah, I did it. The time I done it, it was a few years ago, but that's because I genuinely thought that's what I had to do. Again, this was a few years ago, and as I was losing weight after, like, I remember thinking, wait, so I'm losing weight. I've lost about, remember at the time, I remember this, I had these realizations when I had lost like 8 kg. So I'd already lost 8 kg by this point, and I was getting stronger in the gym. And I was like, if I've lost 8 kg, but I'm getting stronger in the gym, then why did I hold that? All that extra weight was not benefiting me in any sort of way. And that's
Yeah.
when I was like, okay, I should never do that again.
Yeah. And
I
and
should
it
say,
and it impacts your health. Like I
yeah,
know this is kind of
exactly.
like a touchy topic, but like being overweight, it's not healthy. And like you can still love yourself, like the whole like fat is fit and like beautiful at any size kind of movement thing, whatever. Like you should and can love yourself at any size, at any weight, at any way you look, like all that stuff. You should love yourself. But that doesn't mean that that's healthy. It's not healthy to carry excess body fat and be obese to any degree of obesity. It's not healthy, and no amount of loving yourself offsets that. You should love yourself, but you should also want to improve yourself. And those things can exist at the same time. Just because you're obese doesn't mean you don't love yourself. You should want to improve your health. When I was gaining the weight, and I was probably about 25 pounds heavier than I am right now. I started to notice like I would start snoring. I wear like an Oura ring, and it's track sleep and whatever. And I got the new updated version. And when I put this one on, I was like, oh wow, I got the size wrong. It's like hurting my finger. It's too tight, even though I used the same size as the other one that I had. And then as I started losing the weight, I realized like, no, I was just fat. My fingers were fat. And
Mm,
that's why it was hurting me. But like I was snoring, like some foods actually tasted weird. My sleep wasn't as good. Like there was just a lot of things that just like weren't going well. And I knew that that wasn't going to be the long term and I was going to lose the weight and all that stuff. So sacrificing your health, like just for like a couple extra pounds on the bar in the gym, it's like not worth it at all. And you don't look better. Like, there's no benefit to doing the dirty ball.
mm, yeah, yeah, I would agree. Anything else you want to add to that point?
No, I think we maybe went a little off topic on that
No,
one,
it's
but
cool.
no, I think I'm good with that one.
Okay, so next point. Seeking mentors in whatever it is you want to improve is the best way to fast track progress. Right now, so I have business mentors, same business mentors as you. That's how we even got into contact. So Jordan Syatt, Mike Vacanti, they've helped us a ton. I'm sure they've helped me a ton. I'm sure they've helped you loads, and as well as my Japanese teacher Sensei Yoko. They've they've just both contributed immensely to my life, and I'm very thankful for that. So yeah, if you want to fast track your progress in something instead of struggling alone, like I did at the beginning of my fitness journey for about a year and a half until I reached out to a personal trainer as well, reach out to someone who dedicates their life to learning about what it is you want to get good at.
Yep, totally agree. Jonathan Goodman has a good quote on this, and he says like something to the effect of coaches are literally a life hack for anything you want to do. Anything that you want to do, especially with like the access to information on the internet, anything that you want to do, fitness or otherwise, chances are, and a high likelihood of chances, that there's someone out there who has done exactly what you do and is willing and able to teach you and coach you through it. So why wouldn't you? You save so much time, so much headache, so many mistakes. You get where you're going, you get what you want, and that's it. There's really no downside other than, yes, there's some financial investment, but you're going to spend time, effort, frustration, and money in other ways anyways. You might as well spend a little bit more upfront. You save that time, then you can use that extra time for getting better at that thing, or working more, or whatever else you want to do in your life. But the financial investment is almost always worth it, and that's just trade of value, right? So it's your perception of that. But seeking mentors is huge. The same for me. The people that I worked with and grew up with and learned from, like they changed the way that I think about life and or exercise, and therefore life. And I would not, absolutely not, be where I am today if not for them. And I'm sure there are many more mentors who will come into my life, and as I want to learn and grow in new ways, I'll need to seek out more mentors like Jordan and Mike. Shout out to them, and to continue to progress in all aspects of life, whether business, fitness, or otherwise.
Yeah, it's literally, as you said, it's an investment in yourself. And I remember, I'll never forget the first time I ever got it was actually an online coach. It wasn't a person, it wasn't in person, but when I wanted to improve my health and fitness, because at the time, basically, my thoughts were, I'm going to the gym so damn consistently that, and I'm not making progress. I know for a fact I'm doing something wrong. So it's like, okay, I'm going to reach out to this online coach I've been following for a while now. He looks like he knows his stuff. He looks like he knows what he's doing. And he would always help me out if I had a question. So I invested. And fast forward, I was with him for about 2 years. I made a lot of progress. So just under 2 years, I made a lot of progress with him. And I remember when I initially signed up, some of my friends at the time were like, why are you doing that? Like, what's the point? And I was just thinking, look, basically, I want to get into health and fitness. I want to be able to be good at helping get people results as well. This is an investment in myself. Not only am I going to improve my health and fitness and start making progress for once, but I'm also going to have that knowledge for the rest of my life. So beyond just the year and a half that I was with that person, to be able to apply it into to everyone else that I help as well. And yeah, and it was tremendous. It was a tremendous investment. Had I listened to some people around me at the time, I wouldn't have even done it, and I'd probably still be struggling now, or at least a lot longer than I otherwise would have. Otherwise,
Yeah, I think some of the things with the gym and hiring a trainer is that to someone who doesn't know, doesn't go to the gym and doesn't, is just not in this world at all, who obviously wouldn't be listening to this anyways, but the people think that like you go to the gym to lose weight and that's the only thing. And if you don't need to lose weight, why would you go to the gym? And we all know that there's so much more to happen, and losing weight is like, quite frankly, one of the simplest and like least interesting things that is going to happen from that. But there's so much more that you can learn just aside from the losing weight thing. So if you don't need to do that, there are so many other things that you can that you should learn, and especially if you want to take this seriously as your career. So that's like probably where like some of that confusion I would guess comes from outsiders who are looking on you like, oh, Leo, you don't need to lose weight. Why would you pay all this money for a trainer or whatever? But it's like, no, there's way more than just that. That's gonna happen, but that's the least interesting part.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. Otherwise, should we do? Let's do maybe one more point each.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let me pick a good one here then. Okay. This is one thing that I kind of like sort of live my life by, and the point is the best reason to move is because you can. This is something to me that through all my knee injuries and whatnot that I mentioned earlier, like I had a pretty big surgery where I was unable to walk for like almost 4 months, and basically I couldn't even put my leg down on the ground, and it was a whole thing. Now, it was obviously surgery to fix an injury, and it wasn't like I was never going to walk again and all that stuff, but I lost my ability to move and my physical freedom for a significant portion of my life, as I was like quite young at the time. I was 20 years old and identified as an athlete, and I wasn't able to move. And so it's like that was taken away from me at one point. So I got a taste of that. And I never, ever want to lose that again. Now, that might happen by any type of accident, any type of disease as you get older. You might lose your ability to move. And so why would you not move today? When you lose that ability to move, you'll wish for nothing more than the ability to move freely. So while you can, do it now. And it doesn't have to be lifting weights. It doesn't have to be doing crazy HIIT classes and whatever, but just something. Move your body, because the best thing that you can do is to move your body and to keep moving your body. And if you keep doing that, you'll never lose it. And you'll be able to do all of the things in life that you want to do. And your physical health is not going to get in the way of that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. And to be honest, I don't feel like I can add too much to it, but yeah, just move your body, even if it's just a walk or just doing some stretches, whatever it might be. Just move your body. But I feel like I definitely can't add too much to that, because you just explained it so well. But I'm glad you came on my podcast and you did say that, because I feel
Perfect.
like sometimes that just needs to be said. So my last point: if a placebo works, it works. And so now the only analogy I could or example I could come up here with is, so it's more of a COVID related example. And sometimes I get tired of hearing about that, but it's better than no example at all. So basically, the reason, so this is just a great example of how the placebo can be so powerful. So I think there was when everyone was trying for like new vaccines and they were trying to find a vaccine, there was basically a study, two groups. One group got the real vaccine, the other group got it was just a placebo, didn't do anything. And both groups were informed that when you're given the COVID vaccine, you're going to feel, you're going to feel like cold-like symptoms. You might feel a little bit sluggish. You might feel a little bit groggy. And the group that had the placebo vaccine, I think it was like about 40% of them came back the next day, or even within that same day, feeling they felt exactly that. And that's just how powerful the placebo can be.
Yeah, the placebo effect it's a crazy one. And I don't think one that we'll ever fully understand in the world of science, but it's something that we can lead into, and even in a positive way. It doesn't have to just be the placebo in that like kind of negative
Yeah,
sentence where it's like,
exactly.
oh, like you can if you tell yourself that you can do something, then like you're way more likely to be able to do it.
You're
One thing
already
that I
halfway
talked about
there.
it exactly. One thing that I talked about in mine, and it kind of plays in this thing, is like when you hit these certain milestones of weights in the gym, you kind of psych yourself out about it. And I don't know if you've had this, but like, you get the 100-pound dumbbell, 225 on the barbell, 315 on the barbell, these like milestone kind of numbers. And you're like, wow, like I'm only 5 pounds off it, but I don't think I can do 225. I'm stuck at 220. I got to be here for another couple weeks. And you psych yourself out about it. But if you just flip that script, like, no, 225, whatever. It's just the next progression up. It's normal. I'm ready for that. And then you go and do it. But if you tell yourself that you can't, you certainly can't. If you tell yourself that you can, you're way more likely to be able to do it. So you can use the placebo effect in a negative way, but more importantly, you can use the placebo effect in a positive way to convince yourself that you can do stuff and you can do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, and actually, when you were describing that, I had another example that came to mind. So this wasn't. This was actually another example by James Smith. Yeah, I've only brought him up twice in this podcast, by the way. I really love his stuff, but it's because I went to a talk of his the other day.
Yeah.
You might have seen that on my story, and he was giving the example. He was talking about the placebo effect and how he, I think he just bought a normal. It was like a regular bottle of wine from the store, nothing special, just probably was like an average one amongst the store, nothing crazy. Anyway, he went to a group of his friends after. It was like a night where they were all chilling together. I don't know what they might have been playing poker or something. I don't know. And basically he put that bottle of red wine there, and he said that this, and he told us that he told his friends that this was voted the best red wine of 2017. And he said that the amount of compliments that he had about the red wine that night were just the most amount of compliments that he'd ever have over a bottle of wine that he'd ever given anyone before. And he thought that was just so interesting. And I thought that example was very interesting as well. And I can definitely see how it'd be very real. I can 100% see that happening. I'm sure if I was on the receiving end of that red wine, I would have probably done the same just because I expected this red wine to be so good.
Yeah, I would have been fooled just as well because I don't know really much about red wine. And so if someone says, "Oh, this one's good," I'd be like, "Okay, it tastes good, I guess." I don't know.
Yeah,
If this is what good wine is supposed to taste like, then I guess that's what it's supposed to taste like. So I have no idea. If you say that it's the best one of 2017, then great, works for me. But it's a perfect example of the placebo effect. Tell yourself that it's good, and what do you know? It tastes good.
yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I feel like I don't know. I lost count of how many points we done. I think that was 8 or 10 in total. But that was fun, and I'm glad that we got together to do that. Um, was there anything else that you wanted to add to everything we've spoken about so far?
I feel like we covered a lot. I think we did a good job of kind of getting a little bit all over the map and not zeroing in on kind of one topic too much, which there's time and a place for that as well. So I don't think I want to add too much because it'll get us on a whole other tangent. But I think to sum this up and to bring it back to one of the points that you said, Leo, was like you're in control of all of this. Your fitness, your health, your finances, your life. You are in control. And again, to the placebo, whether or not you actually are or aren't, imagine that you're in control because then you can do things to change it. And if you can do things to change it, you can start one step at a time and put one foot in front of the other, take things day by day, adjust as you go. Don't wait for things to be perfect. Just keep going and learning more as you go. That's when you're going to make progress in fitness and in everything else. So take ownership of that, put one foot in front of the other, and just get it rolling.
Well said. Well said. I really wanted to ask you what football team you support, but that's like that was a really good place to end it. But I'm going to ask anyway. So yeah, just out of curiosity, I don't think I've ever asked you this on a more personal, I guess selfish question, just to end off with. What football team do you support? Just out of curiosity.
Although I played soccer, played football, like at a decently high level growing up, I never actually got into like following the sport all that much.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan. I'm certainly not going to argue with you or anybody else about like whose team is better or whatever. Like that's not, I don't care that much. But I would support Toronto FC because obviously that's our home team in the MLS. But in Europe, I would support Fiorentina in the Italian league, and only because that's my grandfather's team that he supports. So those are my teams.
Okay. Will you be following Canada at the World Cup?
I will be. That'll be exciting. So a couple of the guys that I played with and played against are on the national team now, which is like super exciting to
Uh,
see and think about like, wow, these guys are people that I know. They're real, real people to me that are on the national team representing our country in the first time in whatever 30 plus years that we're in the World Cup. So it'll be exciting to see. My prediction is that we make it out of the group stage. I think it's a little bit ambitious, but within the realm of possibility. I think we advance to the group stage, and then we'll I wouldn't bet on us too much after that, but I think we make it out of the group stage, and I'll be cheering us on.
Well, this podcast is going to be on YouTube for who, I don't know how many years. Someone could be watching this in 2032 and just being like, "Oh man, like he did not know that Canada's group stage was about to flop hard," or something like that. Yeah,
or and
opposite.
using the placebo effect, it could be the opposite. Say by some miracle we win the World Cup, and it's like, wow, he didn't even think they were going to make it out of the group stage, and here they are, they won. What an idiot.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, no, honestly, it was really good to have you on here. I enjoyed our discussion a lot. Yeah, where can people find you on a final note?
Yeah, Daniel Yores everywhere on all the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Kind of, I just post stuff on TikTok, but I'm not really active on there. But Instagram is the best. Website danielyores.com, and Daniel Yores, or the Daniel Yores podcast, everywhere you get your podcasts. But it's been a pleasure as well, Leo. I'm happy that we got to do this. We'll have to do the return leg. I'll have you on my podcast at some point in the near future. And but yeah, it's been amazing to connect and amazing to share. So I'm just happy that we were able to do this.
I'm looking forward to that a lot, and that's no problem. As I said, I've been trying to set this up with you for a long time now, so I'm very happy that it's done. If you are listening to this from Daniel's side, then you can always just get in touch with me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. It's all the same as well at Leo Alves PT. Alves is spelled Alves, as you probably would have seen in the podcast title now, but at Leo Alves PT on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And never hesitate to send over a message. I'm always happy to have a chat with everyone. But again, Daniel, thank you very much for coming on. I enjoyed that discussion. That was a good one. I'm very excited to publish this episode. Otherwise, take care, and I'll see you around.
Thank you, Leo.